Hey guys and gals, it's me Superdare Rocket, and welcome to the little hype train of mine that is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, I know, I am very late to the party at this point, but hey, as the usual saying goes, better late than never. But unfortunately though, we cannot actually review Doctor Strange 2 itself, considering it's not available in my country as of right now. I'll probably have to watch it in digital after a few weeks from now. But oh well, there's still stuff to talk about, like technically the prelude to Doctor Strange 2, that is Spider-Man No Way Home. That's right, we're finally reviewing the movie. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
3, 2, 1.
Ready for liftoff, super Daniel Rocket. Get ready for it. So I know usually nowadays I do want to make sure that I don't really force a spoiler review in, movies that came out already in cinemas. It's already been like a few months since then, or a few years, but yeah, I kind of feel like with a movie that is big as this one, I have to really go into the spoilers. So yeah, we're gonna cue the spoiler warning now. So to start off the review, I want to talk about the beginning of the movie because, well, wait. Oh no. So Spider-Man No Way Home is the third installment in the brand new Tom Holland trilogy in the MCU. And here we're tackling through the multiverse with different villains and all that stuff. But of course, before that, in the opening, they actually tackle the events of the ending of the previous movie, Spider-Man Far From Home. And I really like that because before watching this movie, I was a little bit worried that they were gonna just skip through all the stuff, all the implications of having Mysterio frame Spider-Man. But no, they spent most of the beginning parts of the movie focusing on that concept, which is really nice because I think it's a very interesting concept to get into, and they did the best they could in the time they had. You can really see the struggles and how stressful it is for Peter Parker and his friends and family with all of this stuff happening. They're all in the press and such. It's all pretty crazy for them, and you can kind of get an understanding as to why somebody like Peter Parker would do anything to fix it, hence leading into all this multiverse of madness. No, we're not there yet. To be honest, all the multiverse stuff that happens in this movie can be a bit confusing at times. The movie mentions that the spell that Doctor Strange cast at the beginning of the movie caused all of these villains to appear, but that's not necessarily the case. If I recall correctly, Electro didn't know who Spider-Man was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so why is he here? Another thing I found a bit jarring is Sandman and Lizard's inclusion because they don't really add much for me, and they weren't even there to actually film on set. They just used pre-existing footage from the previous Spider-Man films when they revert back to their human forms at the big climax of the film. So yeah, I kind of feel like they just wanted to focus on these three villains. And at least, yeah, to be honest, they did a pretty good job with those three villains. And oh my goodness guys, I really like what they did with these three characters in particular. Starting off with Electro, I really like they were able to tone down his personality from the previous movie that he was in, which of course was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They really removed all of the cartoonish aspects of the movie that a lot of people didn't really like, and I really appreciated that. It's a lot more better this time around. And of course, they also updated his look. He now looks a lot more like his classic version from the comic books, rather than the blue Electro that you've seen from time to time within the comics, which was an alright design, but it definitely looked a bit jarring in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, especially with the eyes.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
So I'm glad they changed it and they were able to modernize it, but not modernize it too much to the point where it looks a bit jarring, just like the blue Electro. So I'm also pretty happy with that little change. But of course, the main stars of the show are of course the main Sam Raimi villains that they showcase, that being Otto Octavius and of course the Green Goblin. And it's amazing, to put it simply. I really like their appearances in this movie. They really were able to make very authentic versions of these characters. It really feels like they were ripped straight out of their movies, which makes sense considering the context of the movie itself. And since Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man is very different compared to Tobey Maguire's version of Spider-Man, it led into some very interesting situations that these MCU characters have when clashing with these Sam Raimi villains, which is pretty cool. So I'm glad they weren't just shoehorned in just for the nostalgic factor or just there to have some fun references, which are still present in the movie, and they're still pretty great.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
One thing that I really like about this movie that a lot of people have been talking about is that they put a big emphasis on the relationship between the MCU Spider-Man and MJ. God, I have to, mention which Spider-Man I'm talking about nowadays, huh? Yep. Welcome to Phase 4 of the MCU. But yeah, it's actually pretty great. I really like the interactions between the two characters. Zendaya and Tom Holland did a pretty good job making sure they look like they're an actual legitimate couple. And it makes sense considering it is a crucial part of the film and they have to make sure that this relationship works pretty well to make the whole story feel effective. And I'm glad they succeeded in that. I mean, yeah, if you look at the general Spider-Man mythos, of course, MJ is a very important part of Spider-Man's life. Spider-Man does need an MJ in order for him to, operate properly, as weird as that kind of sounds. But yeah, that is definitely the case, and I'm glad they were able to get it right. And yeah, it's actually pretty good, and I think it's almost on par with the Peter and Gwen's relationship. But of course, that's the Gwen and Peter relationship. So in all honesty, technically, this is the best movie version of these two characters interacting with each other so far, in my opinion. Chaya, what is our fifth and final main topic for today?
This comes from Fandrew Geekfield. Hey Daniel and crew! Before Spider-Man No Way Home, people were really excited to see a certain Mr. Number 2 and Number 3. I believe that most of the excitement came from Number 2, but to my surprise, it kind of feels like the exact opposite. What do you think of this, and do you feel the same way? Thanks and rock it on. Alright, Fandrew Geekfield, thanks for sending that in. Of course, before Spider-Man No Way Home released back in December of 2021, a lot of people were excited for the potential appearances of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire as their respective Spider-Man. And I kind of believe that people will be more hyped for Tobey Maguire, especially considering he has the better movies and his movies are very iconic in a lot of people's eyes. So I kind of feel like that was the scenario that we're going to be heading towards. But surprisingly, one day I was scrolling through Twitter and I noticed the trending page. And on that trending page is a hashtag simply saying, "Make TASM tree." And that's when I realized people were more excited of Andrew Garfield's appearances compared to Tobey Maguire's. I mean, no disrespect to Tobey Maguire, he did a fantastic job. But my goodness, Andrew Garfield. I mean, if you've been on this channel for quite a while, you know that I was a firm believer that, of course, Andrew Garfield can be a great Spider-Man within the right script, the right direction, and of course, in general, the right movie. And this is the big proof of it. I love his appearance in this. I really like that he was acting like the middle brother of the group, which, I mean, that makes sense. That was really cute. And yeah, he actually interacted pretty well with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Of course, as you can see from the interviews, Andrew Garfield really had a fun time with this movie, which I'm really glad he did. I'm really happy to see him again after the events of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I love his little redemption arc with him being able to save Tom Holland's MJ. Yeah, honestly, it was handled pretty well. I honestly really loved it. So, Chaya, you've seen the movie and you've seen Andrew Garfield's appearance. What do you think of all this? Oh, I actually haven't got the chance to watch the movie, but yeah.
Oh, this is awkward. Sorry that I spoiled the movie there.
Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. There's spoilers all over the internet, so, yeah, it's okay.
Anyways, guys, what do you think of Andrew Garfield's appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Are we back? Is everything back to normal? Leonard, are we back? We're back! Everything's back! So I basically talked about most of my opinions on the movie thanks to this weird multiversal whatever this is that I've been experiencing. But at least I can talk about my concluding thoughts about this movie. So yeah, I do feel like I understand what John Watts was saying in an interview a while back. I think he said something like, this is gonna be the end game for Spider-Man. He did not just say it because, you know, this is the third movie, big finale to the high school trilogy, and it's not because, you know, people usually use that term now. I think he really meant it. Not just end game for this version of Spider-Man, but an end game for all versions of Spider-Man we have seen in the movies, at least in live action anyways. Of course, in the Tobey Maguire films, we get to see the true essence of Spider-Man in a way, and then in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, we get to see how much struggles that you can have when being Spider-Man. And then of course, now we have this version of Spider-Man, which kind of fooled us for a bit, give us a bit of a deviation, but even still, he is still Spider-Man at the end of the day. And of course, he still has to have some sacrifices along the way when helping others in need, which this movie has really showcased that, which is pretty great. It really makes for a great finale to Spider-Man, at least this era of Spider-Man anyways. To be honest, I wasn't that bothered with the very different version of Spider-Man that we had back in Homecoming and Far From Home, but I understand why people were a bit upset with it. It kind of loses what makes Spider-Man special in the first place and what makes him separate from any other Marvel superhero. Now that they do some changes, he's just another piece of this big, vast cinematic universe. It's nothing really that special, but I'm glad this movie really brought him up to that status again. And I'm really excited what they do with it, since, you know, we never seen a version of Spider-Man like this in this type of MCU world. So it's interesting to see what they do with that concept in the near future, especially with that suit. My goodness, that suit looks amazing. I'm really excited to see that new suit in action in another movie, hopefully soon. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So with that said, alright guys and girls, thank you for watching. Oh come on, I'm almost done. Can you just end already? I'm already done finishing up the video and all that stuff. That's not what I meant by ending the video. What is going on here? You know what? I think it's time for a little plan of my own. It's been a while since I used this glove, but it's my only shot of trying to fix this. Come on, before things warp even drastically or whatever. I don't know how this works, but I'm gonna try. Here we go. Good old glove fixing things as always. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, hopefully you're rightly. Oh, that's not normal. I better call somebody or go outside to talk to. Oh no, that's out of the picture. Yeah, literally, I'm not going there. Oh God. Oh boy. Oh no. And all those other O's.